Live from Music City, Nashville, Tennessee, this is your motivational, sensational, inspirational, educational, keenly awaited, highly anticipated edition of How Do Credit Cards Work, brought to you by Real Life Trading. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from around the world, how's everyone doing on this terrific day? For those who are here live in webinar computer land, thanks so much for being here. What's going on, Madeline? How are you? James in the building, what's going on? Ryan, pleasure to have you here. Folks, very excited about today's session. I want to make sure you know this is going to be quick, probably 15 to 20 minutes. And for those who are here live, this is a no judgment zone, judgment-free zone. So if you have a question, just simply ask. There's no such thing as stupid questions. In fact, the better your questions, the better your life usually. That's oftentimes the way it works. So let's get started talking about how do credit cards work. This is a presentation specifically for people of all ages, but as you know, March is Kids Month every year at Real Life Trading. And we want to talk about kids and teach kids how do credit cards work. So when they grow up, they get an idea and they don't make the same mistakes that I made when I first got my credit card. Type in a 1 into the chat pane if you can hear me and see me okay. Just want to make sure, and then we will get rocking and rolling. All right, good. I think everything's going through. Fantastic, wonderful. I like it. So, from a literal standpoint, a credit card is a small plastic card containing a means of identification, such as a signature or picture that authorizes the person named on the card to charge it to goods or services on an account for which the card holder is billed periodically. So that is like the brick and mortar definition of what a credit card is. So it's literally like a plastic card, and whoever's name is on the card, they authorize the use of it. So let's talk about what is credit, right? So credit and then card. So what is credit exactly? So credit is the ability of a customer, like you, Madeline, to obtain goods or services before payment based on the trust that payment will be made in the future. So when that means that when you're actually spending a credit card, you actually might not have the cash on you available. You're literally swiping a card that says, yep, I'll pay for this later. So when you get a credit card, you're saying, I'm going to pay for this, not today, but later. So it allows you to bill or push the payment off into the future. But that's what credit is. I mean, credit literally is the ability of someone to obtain something without actually paying for it right then and there. So anytime you use credit of any sort, you technically do carry something called debt, right? So anytime you use credit to purchase something that you don't have, then you go into something called debt. So let's talk about what debt is. Debt is typically money, but it's something that is owed or due, something that you owe something to. And this, my friends, right here, this 4-letter word, debt, is one of the reasons that people are most stressed out in this life. They have debt hanging over their heads, they owe a lot of money, they are stressed out. And it might be you, it might be your parents, but there's a lot of people that are very, very stressed out about debt because it's like, how am I ever going to break free from this cycle? And it all can start with credit cards and not understanding exactly how to use them. So we're going to be talking about that a lot today in the next 10 minutes. It's a very weird and vicious cycle out there. Very strange. At some point in your life, it's very important, nay, crucial, to actually have credit. So it's very, very important to have. But in order to get credit, you have to go into debt, at least at some point for a certain period of time, even if it's for an hour. You have to be in debt in order to get credit. You have to owe someone money in order to get credit. But if you have too much debt, then you won't be able to get credit. So it's like, what? It's like, okay, I got to get something in order to get it, but if I have it, then I can't get it. It's pretty much what the cycle is. That's also known as a catch-22. That's another term for the cycle of what is a credit card debt. So in order to get a credit card, you have to actually have debt, but if you have too much debt, then you can't get a credit card. It's weird. Very, very strange out there. But it's the way it works. So here's like a visual representation of how credit cards work. So let's say, Aaron, this is you right here. You're a cool guy, you're wearing a tie. And then Madeline, this is going to be you right here. And so Madeline and Aaron. So you're real life people, right? You're humans, you exist on the world. So what happens if you want to buy something? Let's say you want to buy some items. Maybe it's some clothes, maybe it's a baseball bat or something else. Whatever it might be. Charlotte's here. What's up, cuz? So, let me go back. I got so excited to see Charlotte's name. So some of the items that you want, right? If you're a real life person, you actually have to buy those items by using something. So what happens is you use this credit card. So if you're a real person, you go to a merchant of some kind. And the reason I'm using the word merchant is actually kind of important. I'll talk about that in just a second. But if you use a merchant, that allows you to buy whatever the merchant has, and thusly you now receive it. Okay, so if you wanted a baseball bat, you go and you buy the baseball bat from a particular company, and now you have the baseball bat using your credit card. The reason I use the term merchant is because in order for the company to use a credit card, they have to pay what's called a merchant service fee. Here's an interesting thing. You might have experienced this in your life, Charlotte, but maybe some others have as well. Type in a 1 if you've ever gone someplace. It's usually in a very small town or a rural area that says you must spend a certain amount of money if you're using a credit card. Usually it's like $5 or $10. I've seen it at a few gas stations. It says you must use $10 in order to use the credit card. I've seen it at a few bars also. But really it's saying that you must spend a certain amount of money in order to use the credit card. The reason that's the case is because the company, the merchant, the store, has to pay the credit card company in order to be able to use their credit card system. So if it's Visa, right, you've all heard of Visa. Visa collects money from a merchant in order for that merchant to use their credit card. And the reason that they pay it is because a lot of people use credit cards to buy the things they want because it's simple. So if they don't have credit cards, then usually they don't receive as much business, and that's the point of a business, is to sell stuff. So if they don't have one, then it's pretty difficult for people to buy using that. So the use of credit cards actually originally began in the United States during the 1920s. When individual firms such as oil companies and hotel chains began to issue them to customers for purchases. The first universal credit card could be used in a variety of establishments, was introduced by the Diners Club in 1950. So there you go. There's a game show host question. 1950 by the Diners Club. And then another major card of this type, known as the Travel and Entertainment Card, was established by a company called American Express in 1958. So credit cards have been around for a long, long time. Very long time. But they weren't actively used until the 80s. So American Express came out in 1958, but a lot of people, like your average consumer, did not use them until the 1980s. So let's talk about the pros and cons really quickly. Again, we only have 5 minutes left. Let's talk about the pros and cons of credit cards. First of all, I do want to mention that I'm actually pro credit cards. I like credit cards. It's all about how you implement them. It's about how you use them. I'm a big fan of credit cards, but if you use them incorrectly, it can ruin your life. And I mean that in a very literal sense. So the pros, the good thing about credit cards, number 1, it allows you to leverage buying power. Number 2, frequent flyer miles. This is a very big overlooked perk of credit cards. But let's say you use credit cards a lot to pay things off. They'll give you frequent flyer miles. A lot of people wonder how I fly so much, and I use frequent flyer miles a lot. So I'll use a credit card to buy something that I'm going to pay off anyway. I buy it, I pay it off, same as cash, and then I get frequent flyer miles on top of that. So after a year goes by, I save up some points, I can get a free flight somewhere just because I use the credit card. Because most people don't use the credit card the way it should be used. Obviously, it helps build credit. It's great for emergencies. This is a big, big pro right here. Right? Let's say your car breaks down in the middle of nowhere and you don't have the cash to fix it. You got to go to a mechanic shop and you got to spend $400 to fix something. You don't have that cash on you right then and there. It's great for emergencies. And of course, another thing that's very, very helpful is it has theft and identity protection. This happened to me when I was 18. I was playing basketball and left my wallet on the court, and then my wallet got stolen. And then they went and they bought $400 worth of groceries at a Winn-Dixie. All right, so they racked up a $400 bill. Now, if that was cash, what would happen with that, ladies and gentlemen? If it was cash, it'd be totally gone, right? There's nothing I could do about it. Someone takes $400 of your hard-earned money, cash, donezo. You've lost it. Sorry about your luck. You probably file a police report, but that's really about the extent. Okay? There's not much else that can happen. But if your credit card gets stolen and someone racks up a big bill, they actually will, in vast majority of the time, eradicate that bill so you don't actually have to pay it. It's a big, big plus. Now, the downsides of credit cards, there are a lot of them as well. Really, here are the biggest. Very high interest rates, if not used properly, can ruin your credit. Debt can be massively stressful. These three are pretty much the same thing. Here's the deal, folks. If you do not use credit cards properly, if you use credit cards too much, you rack up too high of a bill, it will take years before you can pay that off. I mean, years and years and years. It takes a lot of hard work because the interest rates are so high, you will be only paying interest every month and then actually reducing your bill. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but this is what it looks like. So when you do pay a credit card, this is something that adults care very, very much about, something called a credit score. It's massively important. This number, and this might be shocking to some of you, but this number is more important than your high school GPA, how well you did in college, or how much cash you have in the bank account. A credit score is hugely, hugely important. If you have a bad credit score, this is something that follows you for your entire life. It's like a police record, except sometimes kind of even worse, depending on how bad it is. So you always want to pay off your credit card. If you don't, let's say that you rack up $1,000 on your credit card, okay, and the minimum payment for that credit card for that month is $20. And you're like, cool. So you just pay the minimum balance, $20, and then you spend another $1,000 the next month, right? So now you got $2,000 of credit card debt, and now the minimum payment is $40. You're like, oh man, I only have to pay $40? Easy to afford, no problem. So you spend another $1,000. So now you actually probably have $3,000 of credit card debt. Your minimum payment is only $60, but with interest, right? If your minimum payment is $60, you could pay, guys, $3,000 could take you over 3.5 years to pay off only paying the minimum payment and not spending any more money on it. 3.5 years for $3,000. I mean, that is radically a huge number. And well, actually, let me rephrase. This is a small number. $3,000 is nothing. 3.5 years is a big number. So when the credit score is created, it's a number assigned to a person that indicates to other people how likely they are to repay a loan. And this is how it's calculated. 35%, how well does Charlotte pay her bills? 30% is how much debt does Ryan have outstanding right now? And then, of course, inquiries. How many credit cards do you look after? How many times have you defaulted on something? And what type of credit cards do you have and how many do you have? So here's what looks like a good number. Here's a credit score cheat sheet, if you will. I personally have a credit score of 720. So it's like it just barely is into the green, which is okay. I'm only 28 years old, so by the time I'm in my 30s, it'll probably be, closer to 800. But the fact of the matter is, as you're younger, it just takes time to get a good credit score. A lot of young people will start out right here, and in college, they'll make some bad decisions, and then the credit score will drop into the low level, and then it becomes impossible to do anything ever when it comes to money. Right? Get a house, get a car, buy something anywhere, anytime, travel, if you will. So here's the number one golden rule. If you want to remember anything, any one thing from this entire webinar, remember this guy right here. Trust me, this is worth probably $40,000. I know it doesn't sound like a lot right now, but 40 grand, this is probably worth that amount because that's the amount of money people on average over their lifetime will pay in just credit card interest. The average American pays $40,000 in just credit card interest over their lifetime. So the golden rule is if you cannot afford to pay it off by the end of the month, then you can't afford it, period. Meaning don't buy it. So if you're buying something on the 13th and you're looking at your bank account, you're like, you know what, there's no way I can pay this before the month is over, then don't do it. Just stay clear. Unless it's an absolute life or death emergency, don't do it. Because the interest alone on credit cards can be crippling. So here's kind of what it looks like if you have a good credit score. When you have poor credit, you really get beamed over the head in a big bad way with mortgages, with auto loans. Even your insurance rate is higher, like your car insurance. So you save a lot of money with excellent credit. The challenge is most people with lower incomes, they are always struggling, have poor credits, and they're always paying interest fees to somebody else rather than saving their money. So they're paying extremely high credit card rates, high insurance rates, high rates on their car, high rates on their house. And if you only have good credit, right? Having good credit can save you hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime and can drastically improve your quality of life. It's amazing what just having the ability to just simply pay your credit cards on time, how much that can impact your life. And that, my friends, is called discipline. Discipline is doing what you have to do even when you don't want to do it. That's what discipline is. So you're like, you know what? I could either spend $300, go out with my friends, have some parties, have a good time, or I could take that $300 and pay my credit card bill and then not go out and party. You got to choose the credit card bill every time on that one. You got to put the money here rather than go out and have fun. Because it's important while you're young to start that, because when you get older, the average American is somewhere right around here and they get just absolutely raked over the coals with how much they have to pay. So for my adults watching this is going to be an incredibly great website for you to use. I personally have an account here for the last 6 years, or since I've known about it. You have to be over 18. But if you're younger, let's say you're 10 or 11 and you're watching this, when you turn 18, get an account at creditkarma.com. It's entirely free. It literally costs you zero. Ever doesn't cost you money, ever, ever, ever. When you get a creditkarma.com account, and I'm not getting paid to promote them, just let you know. Not that you would care if I was getting paid to promote them. But creditkarma.com, I use them. That lets you look at your account, lets you look at your credit score, lets you look at everything for free as often as you want. A lot of people think that you can only look at your credit score once or twice a year. That's bogus. I look at my credit about once every 2 weeks just to make sure nothing weird's going on, make sure I didn't forget to pay something, make sure there's something I'm not aware of. It's there. It's a fantastic website, and I highly suggest that you use it. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, that's really about it. Bottom line is, if you get a credit card, fantastic. They're great to get. They're very easy to get. Just make sure to pay off your credit card. Make that like one of your most important things that you do, period. Pay your bills, pay off your credit card debt, because most people in this world, especially in America, have high blood pressure levels, low life expectancy because their stress is so high because there's a mountain of debt in front of them and their life quality goes down because of how much debt they have. That's not what you want. You want good life quality, great life expectancy, and you want to live a fantastic life. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, let me know. My email address is jeremy@reallifetraining.com. I'm also on Facebook. I'm also on Twitter. I'm on Instagram now. Whoa, Instagram. So if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen from around the world, thanks so much for tuning in to this really quick webinar. You absolutely rock. And until next time, remember, love life, live life, and trade it. I'll see you later.